Hey everyone, this is Dan Bell, and welcome to the Cutting Room Floor. This is episode number 30, and on this episode, I'm going to be discussing the final installment of the Owings Mills Dead Mall series. This is the third video I've done on Owings Mills, and the first video, I don't really count the first video as like one of my videos because it's so bad. It was just kind of like, I don't know. It wasn't because I just kind of threw it together. I didn't really put much thought into it. And I also wasn't really, I don't know. I just wasn't feeling YouTube at the time. I was just like, it was very early on. So you can see how, I think the Owings Mills Mall video was the third video I did in the Dead Mall series. And that was back in March of 2015. And then the footage you see in this video, the color footage, was shot in September of 2015, like just a couple of days before the mall closed. But yeah, I just didn't have a feel. Like you can see how sort of the Dead Mall series has evolved over that time. Like when I started to collaborate with vaporwave artists and kind of, find these ridiculous 80s and 90s, commercials and films and stuff like that I've used to assemble these opens. So I just didn't, at that time when I was putting videos out, I didn't really think, I didn't think anybody would watch them. So it was almost just like a personal thing. I was like, well, I'm going to film this because I would really like to look at it in 10 years when it's all gone. I shouldn't think anybody else would watch, but I was wrong. Anyway, let's get into this. So this day that we went to Owings Mills, we were not planning to go to Owings Mills. Jim and I we had got together and we were going to go out and just kind of drive around Baltimore, which we do a lot. I love driving around Baltimore and seeing stuff that I haven't seen before. And it's so funny because I know the city like the back of my hand. I mean, it's like, it's my town. And I'm always surprised when I find stuff that I haven't seen before. And I don't know, it's kind of cool. Baltimore has so many historic buildings. Actually, I was talking to my friend, Kate, who is the author of McMansion's Hell. If you guys don't know what McMansion's Hell is, it's basically a blog where she kind of rips apart McMansions, and it's so funny and so great, and Kate's just wonderful. But she was, she told me the other day, she's like, Baltimore has the most historic properties of any other city in the country. The most historic properties on the National Register of Historic Places. So it's amazing what you can find just driving around. But anyway, let's get into this. I'm getting off topic already. So Jim and I were just going to drive around, and I said, I was like, let's go up and check out Owings Mills. Oh, actually, he had a suggestion up near Owings Mills. So we went up there to look at it, to the place he was talking about, and then I said, oh, we're here, let's go see what they're doing with Owings Mills. So we drive over to the mall, and they have a fence all the way around it, and the fence was open. The gate to go in was open. And I just said, let's just go in and check it out, and I brought my camera, and I had no idea that I was going to be so blown away by what I was going to see. I mean, this is weird because it's like you can actually see the square footage and how massive this mall is, since they've removed all the walls and they've removed everything. So it's just like a shell, but you can see how big it was. I mean, it was huge mall. It's kind of weird because when I was there shooting this footage, when I was there that night, I went in the evening, and there was a very somber, almost ominous feeling that I had, because I was like, this place is going to close. Like there's no doubt in my mind. I think when I was here, I remember looking at the stores all were closing, in 2 days, or were closing in 1 day. And there was only 3 or 4 stores left. And so I just felt like something was going to happen. And then it was like literally 2 days later, closed. They just closed them all down. They didn't even announce it. They just closed the doors. So anyway, when we went in this time, it was just like, because I don't want to feel like I'm beating a dead horse. And that's just the way I feel about, any mall. Like people are always like, oh, you should go back and check it out again. And I'm like, I've already done a video. I don't want to repeat malls in the series, but this Owings Mills in this condition was quite striking. So for me, it was really it was incredible to see. I mean, it really was, because I just, was there just the last couple of days they were open, and to go here now and to see what's happened to the place is like, it's mind blowing. But I had the footage, and I looked at the footage, and I thought, I don't know if I even want to put this out, like, because I had done a Film It video here, and it was another time that I just drove past the mall, and they were actually, the demo crews were inside working on ripping the inside of the mall out, and I filmed a little bit of that, and I just thought, well, it'll be fine on the Film It channel, because I don't want to, again, beat a dead horse. I love this shot right here when I'm pushing the button and then it cuts to this. Isn't that great? So I just didn't think that I was going to go back and produce a whole new video on this mall. But when I saw what it was like when we were there, just whenever it was, a month ago or whatever, I really was like, I got to do another video, just because I love before and after, and this was probably the most stark before and after I've seen lately. Well, at least in person. But just an amazing fall from what it was. When I was a kid, I went to this mall, and it was so fancy. It was like the fanciest mall. You would go, they had a Saks Fifth Avenue, which was like, really, I think it was the first one in the Baltimore, D.C. metro area. And it was such a big deal at the time when it opened. And I think Saks was only open at Owings Mills for about a year. So that kind of set the mood, I think, for the mall itself. And it being, starting to go downhill, because it really didn't last that long. At one time, Owings Mills was named the most endangered mall by the New York Times, which was really interesting article they wrote about it, and they called Owings Mills the most endangered mall. And it's so true, because, and I think that article came out maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, and they were right. But at that time, there was still, the mall was maybe half full at that time, maybe 40% vacancy. And, it just kept whittling down, because when I started to go back to check the place out, there was literally only maybe 5 stores left, including JCPenney and Macy's. But I don't really count, I'm counting the stores inside the mall. That's pretty stark right there. And my decision to use black and white, by the way, was one that I thought about. There was a lot of decisions I had to make with this video. I wanted it to be effective in a way that, like, I wanted you to see kind of what had happened, and I wanted it to kind of throw you off a little bit. So the first shot that I did, when we cut from that sort of bubblegum cheery opening, everyone jumping around and dancing, and I wanna know I wanna know. It's gonna it kind of represent the mall era, and then we just do that one jarring cut to the JCPenney sign with the pile of rubble in front of it, and it just, I don't know. I love this shot right here of the clouds moving past the skylight. But I wanted it to be, there has to be a difference in what it was and what it is now. And honestly, there was no color in here. I mean, you're just looking at it sort of a gutted interior. There's no life left to it. It's done. This shot here, you see life. Well, I'm talking about color, not really life. There's no life in any of these shots, but it was still open. And you could picture or imagine it being busy. But when you're here now, in these shots that I got now, there, you can't imagine it being a mall, it being anything really. So it's just sort of the end. And it's kind of like, goes back to like, it's like the Wizard of Oz, an opposite. It's like the mall at one time was Oz, and now we're back to Kansas again. You know what I mean? Like it's the opposite. And I kind of wanted it to have the same effect. I mean, I don't know if there's any person, I mean, if you really think about it, everyone's seen The Wizard of Oz, but if you think about the first time you saw it, think about that moment and think about when Dorothy walks out of the house into Munchkinland and the color, it's like you wanted to scream. It was so exciting. And I kind of, this was an opposite. I wanted people to go, oh my God, it's so sad. And it is sad. And so that's what I kind of wanted people to see. And so that's why I decided to do it this way. And I think it worked great. I love it. I was going to narrate it, and then I was going to do like hokey kind of, play vaporwave echoing through the gutted mall and that kind of thing. And then I thought, you know what? Just don't do it that way. Just make the past what the past is, and then make the current situation what it is. And this is what you end up with. And I had a great time putting this video together. It was one of the, it's something I put together and I just feel good about it. It's almost like the Pitcher, Oklahoma video that I did. I put it together and it just turned out to be something really special. And I think that's a fulfilling feeling for any artist, anyone who creates, and you feel that you're like, oh man, this is really good. I really, this is what I wanted. And that's kind of how I felt about this video. But the Owings Mills saga is over. I mean, there's nothing left really to go into. It's done. And I don't know if I'm sad about it. I don't, it's hard for me to get emotional about malls. And that's not, I'm not trying to take away from anyone who does, because I know a lot of people have deep emotional attachments to shopping malls because they were so special to people when they were open, especially before the internet. I mean, people were, this was life for a lot of people. But personally, I don't have much emotional attachment to the malls that I visit, with the exception of the Sunrise Mall where Billie Jean was shot. That mall, I love that mall. I literally fantasize about buying that mall. Like, I wish I had the money and I could just buy the mall and like turn it in, like have a Billie Jean festival and turn it into like a hipster place or something. Like, it just would be so cool to do that. But that mall I have an emotional attachment to. But for a different reason. I see people who have emotional attachments to malls, and I don't. For me personally, I just don't. I don't. A lot of people are contacting me about Rolling Acres being demolished, and Rolling Acres Mall in Akron, Ohio. And, a lot of people are like, are you sad about it? And it's like, no, I'm not sad about it, because I didn't spend any time there when it was open. I never visited the mall when it was open. So I don't really, and I didn't grow up in that mall. The mall I grew up in, or spent a majority of my teenage years in, was Marley Station Mall, which is about maybe 30 minutes from Owings Mills. And, that mall is still open, and if it ever closes, I don't know how I'll feel about it, but at that time I will let you all know. Will I be sad? Will I not care? I don't know, but buildings are just buildings. You know what I mean? Buildings are just buildings, and the emotional aspect of what could have happened in that building, or it was something that people held dear, moments in their life. That's what I mourn for. Not the building, but the moments, the human moments. So for me, that's where I'm at with that. I hope that makes sense to people, because the building itself has nothing to do with anything. It has nothing to do with, how you feel or how you react. It's the human moments that matter. And so that's kind of where I am with it. I think I explained that, or I think I did that the right way. I think I explained it properly. Whenever I say something good like that, I'm like, oh, did I do a good job? Oh, so this right here was Lord and Taylor, or where Lord and Taylor was, and it was always closed since I've been going back to the mall. And so I never got to go inside, but this is all that's left, which isn't much. And the escalators and stairs and brass and everything was sold off. They auctioned off the whole mall, basically, the interiors. So people bought up the signs, the tables, chairs, architectural elements, stairwells, escalators, everything was sold off. And they had it like an auction. And they had a preview day, and I didn't hear about it. Wait, I did hear about it, but I didn't go because I just was like, ugh. I mean, I was just like, what am I going to film? I already filmed them all. Why am I going to go back? Because literally, when I was here, this was a couple days before they closed, it was literally like walking through an abandoned building that had lights on. I mean, there was nobody here. I think the whole time I was here, I maybe saw 3 or 4 people, tops. I mean, there were a few more people in Macy's, but that was about it. There was nobody in the mall. So it was quite an experience. But so I just, the thought of going back, I was like, eh. And then after they closed the mall, in between when the auction was over and they locked it up to when they demolished it, there were people getting in at that time too. People were breaking in. And a lot of people said, oh, you should go. There's plenty of ways in. You can, and I'm like, why? But why? It's like, I've already shot it. I don't I just don't care if it's abandoned. I don't, it's just not something I'm interested in. But this I was interested in. Those almost look like mobiles, like those, Caldwell. Is that his name? Caldwell Mobiles? The artist, I think that's his name. Calder is his name. Calder. Those look like his mobiles almost. Like they're mall ceiling mobiles. And anyway, this whole experience, filming malls, this is kind of being here in this mall was kind of like a full circle back to the beginning of when I started to film malls. I've always visited dead malls. It's been something I've always enjoyed, is visiting dead malls, but I never really filmed them. And then when I was seeing what was on YouTube, I need better than this. At that time, I think filming malls was sort of an afterthought. Nobody was really going in to shoot them. It wasn't there. They weren't determined. That wasn't the reason they were going to the mall. They were shopping in a dead mall and they decided to film some things. But I wanted it to be different. I wanted it to be like, I go and film the mall and make an actual like little documentary about it, all in secret, of course. But yeah, this is like coming back to that. So weird. Such a sad moment. Not sad, but interesting, I should say. Anyway, you guys have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for watching my videos. What would I do without you? Seriously, this is so great. The Dead Mall series lives on. More episodes are coming up, so make sure you stay tuned and check out Another Dirty Room, my new series. Rave reviews. Everyone loves it. There's a new one out very, very soon. Every other Friday. So, anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Join me on Facebook.